Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to the show. Oh, I got to do this little thing here. I forgot that. How's everybody doing today? Are you ready for the weekend? I know I am. And in fact, so ready for the weekend that Lady Boomer and I are going to do another show from the trail stop tomorrow. We might do, it'll be a short one though. But I hope you all are ready for the weekend. I know that I am. Anyway, so we got a few things that to talk about today, but one just made me laugh, and so I'm featuring it on the show because Joe Rogan went in on Brian Stelter. So, and it's funny. So, and it's true. And so everything I'm going to say about that is going to happen at the beginning of the show. I got dogs with me in the studio today, so you might hear a bark or two, but Lady Boomer's trying to do a meeting, and they're bugging her, and they won't really bother me unless this one keeps yelling. So you might see him in the background. You see his tail there? It's right. You see it in a second, maybe. You can hear him. I see him. Anyway, so get ready for the show. I'm going to play the intro. Johnny's going to play the intro. Play the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawgKnight. And stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as PDawgKnight on the internet. Welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel. It is Friday, the 18th of June, 2021, the last day that we can appeal the conciliation court ruling, and Lady Boomer and I have decided not to appeal it. They just dismissed both cases, and I'm just going to leave it that way. We figured out that it was probably not worth it. We could go into a lawsuit against the former family member, as we'll call him, and but we figured out after talking to a few lawyers that probably for any case that's for $25,000 probably is going to cost us anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000, and then having to collect it from the former family member, where it's probably going to cost more than, because he's an idiot. He's just a fucking idiot, and he's not going to pay it, and he doesn't give a shit. And so we're gonna let it go. Who knows? I'm considering doing a GoFundMe just because I'm pissed off, and see if I can raise to get our 25 grand back. But who knows what I'm going to do? It's very disheartening. Something that we kind of planned on, using for our daughter's wedding and stuff like that. But we'll figure it out. Not a worry. Anyway, thank you, Mr. McChicken has subscribed. Welcome to the show, McChicken. I'm glad you're here. All right, so excuse me. Anyway, let's say good morning to everybody, and then we're going to get into the show. First in the chat today with Somnambule Nation, who gets the bell, and a little clap there. Whoops, I hit my microphone. Hope that didn't sound too loud. Hang on a second. I got to do one of these things. I got a little frog in my throat, or maybe it's a McChicken. I don't know. Anyway, I have my cup of reparations, and that should help. Also, good morning to Jonathan Peterson, Mike Savage, Blarg, Special K on Ass is in the house. Good morning, Select a Boy.
Yeah,
also, good
boy.
morning to Reese Donald. Nice to see you. Also, Advocatus Diablo, the Devil's Advocate, Infamous One is here. Also, good morning to you guys have been chatting away, haven't you? K-Show's in the house. Attack Alpaca, how you doing? Wikipedia Snippet, welcome. Also, good morning to Tyler F's in the house. Chadwick, damn it Chadwick, aka Chadwick Dupree, good morning. DI Freighter Watcher, how you doing? Lord Stanhope, also Pincalo, the Driving Ape Man, one of our several trucker watchers and listeners here. Good morning, sir. Also, good morning to Gamer Valine, and Amy in Connecticut's in the house. Nice to see you. San And is that everybody? That's close. That's about all the names I remember seeing. If I missed you, it's not on purpose. Oh, Jim Beeb's in the house. Could always use one of those right now. And I think we're looking good. So there you go. Happy Friday. Why You're Sangers in the house, it says maybe later check out Spot on BitChute. Great info on Deep Dive for one to consider. Okay, check out, let's see, maybe later check out Spot on BitChute. Great info, Deep Dive for one to consider. Okay, I'll check that out. I will check out that. Also, good morning to the People's Front of Canada. And sounds like the gang's rolling in. If you like what we do today, hit the like button sometime during the show. Also, if you want to, you can help the show out by sharing the stream out. I see a few of you have already done that on Twitter and or some of the other outlets here. Oh, and except for me, I didn't do it myself. That's silly. And then also, but thank you, Dr. Keeve and Somnambule Nation. And okay, what? Oh, weird. Oh, that's a whole nother thread. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. My notifications are going crazy because of a thread that Jedi Ghost Bear started. And so I always have to check that. Anyway, also good morning to Teresa the Kid. Nice to see ya. And I think you're all here. Wait, iPod. Wait, it says Spot. iPod. Tell me which one it is. iPod is like I-pot. We'll have to check that out. Okay, let's get started because I got into the studio and I always check Twitter to see what's trending, and it kind of changes the course of what I'm going to do today. The name of the stream is effing terrible, and that's because Joe Rogan got to talking about Brian Stelter, and I think he was pretty accurate. So this is just funny. So Joe Rogan ripped into Brian Stelter over the weekend. I think this has something to do. Brian Stelter was talking about how, CNN's not even getting as many views as a lot of big time podcasters and people on YouTube. And I think he mentioned Stelter by name. And so I think this is a reaction from Stelter, or excuse me, a reaction from, I got that mixed up. Stelter mentioned Joe Rogan by name. And I think this is a reaction to Stelter by Joe Rogan. He said, he goes, Joe Rogan tears into CNN's Brian Stelter. Hey, motherfucker, you're supposed to be a journalist. Oh, come on. He's on CNN. He's not supposed to be a journalist. Anyway, Joe Rogan ripped CNN's Brian Stelter in Thursday's installment of the Joe Rogan Experience. Speaking with Kyle Kalinske, Rogan referenced an unspecified segment on CNN about the popularity of many YouTubers and podcasters who in some cases receive more viewers than large-scale cable networks such as CNN. This is because the market has spoken and your show's terrible. I mumbled that on purpose. Said Rogan, addressing the ratings battles. Brian Stelter's show keeps slipping and slipping and slipping in the ratings. Same with Don Lemon's. It's the same thing. Everybody knows they're not real. They're not real humans. Rogan also torched Stelter for his recent interview with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, in which Stelter asked, "What does the press get wrong when covering Biden's agenda?" Critics panned Stelter's fawning, bootlicking, and gooey, among other imaginative descriptions. Don't forget potato. Isn't that his nickname, Brian Stelter, the potato? Anyway, how about Brian Stelter talking to the press secretary saying, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? Like, hey, MFer, you're supposed to be a journalist. Because it was the dumbest question. I couldn't believe he asked that. Anyway, Rogan's harsh remarks may have been prompted in part by Stelter mocking him last month for suggesting that he could be canceled by, quote, woke culture. Stelter said that on one level, it's just comical hearing this rich and famous guy express worries. Even though he's paid to talk for a living, he's going to be silenced in the future. Are you kidding me? Has anybody heard of a very obscure person? What's that guy's name? Alex Jones? Alex Jones is pretty popular, and he got canceled. Now, granted, Rogan has a little bit more power than Alex Jones, apparently, with his big-ass contract with what is it, Spotify? But still, the idea that Rogan could if Rogan said something, the really wrong thing, that really, really, really wrong thing, do you think he could be canceled? Of course he could, because that's the culture we live in. Anyway, they're obviously being told a certain amount of what to do, said Rogan of Stelter and cable news hosts generally. And I mean, maybe he's an interesting guy if he had his own effing podcast, if he could just rely on his own personality and be himself. I don't know. I can't imagine doing that gig. Any of those guys. That gig's a strange gig. Well, yeah, they have a narrative that they're supposed to sell, and I don't think Zucker is Zucker still in charge of CNN News? I don't know, but I'm sure Zucker doesn't let them stray very far. And besides, they're the all anti-Trump network, you know, except for Judge Joe Brown calls them the Crying Negro Network because of Don Lemon. But anyway, so anyway, there's several outlets that have this featured. Here's the Daily Wire also has an article about it. Also, the New York Post, even the New York Post ran with this one. Podcast King Joe Rogan has savaged CNN's Brian Stelter for being under the thumb of the White House, losing viewers with a effing terrible show. Okay, so it's basically the same article. But yeah, his interview with Jen Psaki was just embarrassing. And here's what's the result of what's going on with Stelter's show and the rest of CNN. Ratings freefall. CNN Stelter loses 72% of his viewers in 2021. It's because he can't quit Trump. That's a great picture of Brian Stelter, isn't it? Does anyone wonder why they call him the potato? Anyway, the ratings of CNN's reliable sources plunged to their lowest level of the year this weekend, even as host Brian Stelter continues to dedicate every episode to criticizing the credibility of Fox News. That's all he does. It really is. I mean, who's the other one? Well, anyway, I can't even think right now. Anyway, Oliver Darcy. That's all they do. All they do is watch Fox News and then talk about Fox News all day. Hello, Bastard Beast. Nice to see you. The new nadir came 1 week after Stelter all but begged White House spokesperson Jen Psaki to tell him how his network could do better to conform its coverage to the Biden administration's talking points. The latest episode of Stelter's show failed to attract 1 million viewers for the 11th week in a row. A mere 752,000 total viewers tuned in to watch Stelter critique the media, usually heavily focused on the more successful Fox News on Sunday. That's down from a peak of 2.7 million viewers following the January 6th Capitol riot. No, Salissa, he spends a lot of time on Fox, and Acosta is still stuck on Trump. So I can't quite figure out what Acosta's deal is, but he's nowhere to be found. I wonder, doesn't he have a new Saturday show? I think he does. Anyway, CNN's ratings have steadily contracted ever since the breach breathed life into its sagging viewership. Stelter attracted 1.3 million viewers in February, 1.02 million in March, 917,000 in April, 836,000 in May, and now he's down to just over 700,000 viewers. Stelter's numbers look worse when measured by audience members who belong to advertisers' most coveted demographic, the 25 to 54-year-old viewer. Only 129,000 people among that cash-rich cohort watched. The ratings flop cannot be chalked up to the lack of interest in coverage of the media. Reliable Sources, which features Stelter providing commentary on the state of the mass media, airs in the same time slot as Fox News Channel's Media Buzz, featuring former CNN host Howie Kurtz. FNC's media-focused show won an audience of 1.1 million with 185,000 in the key television demographic. Fox News aired 12 different programs on Sunday alone that attracted a larger audience than reliable sources, FNC reported. And despite his poor record of producing viewers, Stelter maintained his laser-like focus on bashing Fox this weekend's episode, in which he derided Fox News as GOP TV. Oh, there's a little pot kettle joke in there somewhere. Belittled the network for revealing the contents of Dr. Anthony Fauci's private emails. Private emails? No. They weren't his private emails, Brian. They were his work emails, the one that he does as the director of the National Institution of Health, you know, the ones that are subject to FOIA requests, and that's how they got that. And who was it that got them? It was the Washington Post who made that FOIA request. So, you know, maybe they thought that would enhance their paper or something. Anyway, quote, routine email scandals portrayed as scandalous. Where have we seen this trick before? He asked. The slump has apparently not hurt the sales of his New York Times bestseller Hoax, Donald Trump, Fox News, and the Dangerous Distortion of Truth. Stelter launched the new expanded paperback version of the book with a party attended by most of his daytime CNN colleagues. Newly reinstated CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin, who is now a verb, who was caught masturbating during an online call hosted by The New Yorker, also paid a visit to Stelter's pad. Oh, I'm so glad they threw that in there. Good morning, Duck Dog. Good morning, Debbie. Thanks. Nice to see y'all. But Stelter had to pay the cost of his own network's lack of credibility during the disastrous appearance on C-SPAN last Thursday. Numerous callers phoned in to express their displeasure with the network, which was once known as the most trusted name in news. One caller, a self-described conservative who supported Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election, told Stelter, CNN, I can't watch you. I wish I could. At MSNBC, they're worse than CNN. Another caller opined, Mr. Stelter is the biggest minister of misinformation I have ever heard, and I'm a news junkie. Anyway, so much for the ratings of Mr. Stelter. All right, let's move on here. So apparently there has been some new revelations from the Georgia election, and apparently somebody's ready to F stuff up. I am paraphrasing, as documents reveals discrepancies, flaws, lies, and human errors. A stunning official election document has revealed major technical, mechanical, and human errors in the Democratic-run Fulton County, Georgia, per the Freedom of Information Act requested by John Solomon's Just the News website. The document, entitled Unabridged Notes Detailing Everything Witnessed November 2nd through November 7th, 2020, was put together by Seven Hills Strategy on behalf of the Georgia Secretary of State and represents an official accounting of major errors conducted in the state, ostensibly won by Joe Biden by a fewer than 12,000 votes. A vast number of technical issues appeared to plague Fulton County's prolonged election count, including incorrect ballots being delivered, ballots being inseparable, opening machines failing, scanning machines failing, and more. At one point in the document, the real-time auditor reveals a temporary staffing agency, Happy Faces, was being used to supply counting staff. A pair were overheard in an elevator where one asked if the other was ready for a long night, to which the second replied, yeah, I'm ready to F shit up. Interesting. The auditor notes, what is Happy Faces doing to vet the people who they are sending to make sure that they're not sending in people who do actually want to F shit up? The document below also reveals a chain of custody issues surrounding ballots and the integrity of their transportation, as well as issues surrounding transparency, lack of access for Republican Party monitors, and incompetent election officials. One entry on Saturday, November 7th at 3:15 p.m. states, quote, State Farm security guard hasn't verified which GOP observers can come in. She literally told them that Democratic observers are allowed in and not Republican because she didn't have their names. Another note shows how Shay Moss, made famous by a number of curious incidents surrounding ballots being pulled out from underneath the tables, told the temporary workers to stop showing up and that Fulton staff will handle it from here. The auditor states they are desperate now but not accepting help. Sounds like territoriality. So anyway, the document is available in this article, which will be in the link in the description down below. Another one here from PJ Media. Documents from Fulton County, Georgia that were submitted to state officials for the election audit highlight significant irregularities in the Atlanta area during the last November's election, ranging from identical vote tallies repeated multiple times to large batches of absentee ballots that appear to be missing from the official ballot scanning records. According to Just the News, thousands of ballots are potentially impacted by these irregularities, suggesting they could be results changing, as Joe Biden's state certified victory in the state was by fewer than 12,000 votes. So, let's see. This is a little bit different information. Anyway, Just the News reviewed the memos that included handwritten tally sheets for all absentee ballots counted by the county, as well as a private report from a contractor hired by Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to monitor the Atlanta area election process. The report, which chronicles 7 days of problems, recorded troubling behavior like the mysterious removal of a suitcase of sensitive election data known as polls pads used to authenticate voters. Quote, learned that Rick reprogramming poll pads earlier was setting up a new precinct for SC11 because someone took the wrong suitcase but only took one, the contractor Seven Hills Strategy wrote late November 2nd, the night before Election Day. Seems to be a mystery who this person was. Should have chain of custody paperwork. That means that a stranger just walked out with sensitive election materials. The contractor also observed that sensitive election materials were left on a dock at a warehouse without supervision. Several cases, including SC11, were just left out on the loading dock outside the warehouse, he wrote. Thankfully, the seals were intact. So last month, Henry County Superior Court Judge Brian Anero unsealed approximately 145,000 Fulton County absentee ballots from the 2020 election, approving them for audit. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported at the time that the audit cannot change the election results, which were certified months ago and have already been confirmed by multiple recounts. But the plaintiffs say an examination of the ballots would get to the bottom of what they see as suspicious activity by election officials at the State Farm Arena in November. So now, among the problems that the memo exposed, I'm going to skip ahead here. One, more than 100 batches of absentee ballots, each containing approximately 100 or more ballots, were assigned tracking numbers before being sent to one of the 5 absentee vote counting machines in Fulton County, but are not subsequently recorded in the handwritten logs showing which batches were scanned and counted, raising concerns the ballots may be missing. Not a good thing. Also, more than 24 batches of absentee ballots were identified as having been double scanned on the tally sheets. Also, 5 sequential batches of absentee votes each appeared with the exact same vote count of 392 for Biden, 96 for President Donald Trump, and 3 for Libertarian Joe Jorgensen, a count that state officials admitted was a statistical impossibility. And finally, many control sheets for absentee ballot batches were counted during the state's audit did not check a box indicating the ballot came from a secure container, raising the possibility that ballots were stored insecurely or that multiple batches of ballots were sealed in a single container. So, then they continued, Fulton County's paperwork is also so shoddy that one state official said it left open the possibility that fraud or misconduct occurred. The audit is only as good as the data that's input, and in this case, Fulton County's records are so problematic, I'm not sure a reasonable person can trust them, the official said. When you add in the reports of ballots magically appearing under tables or being moved out of the counting center, there are legitimate outstanding questions. So, let's see. So hypothetically, speaking, if Maricopa County, Arizona the Maricopa audit and the Fulton County audit both found enough fraud to change the results of those states, Joe Biden's lead in the Electoral College would shrink to 279, and Trump's Electoral College vote count would be 259, which would still not be enough to alter the results of the election. Another audit may be coming in Pennsylvania. If an audit finds results changing fraud in Pennsylvania, which the Trump campaign alleges happened, that would mean that Trump's true Electoral College vote in 2020 would have been 279 to Joe Biden's 259. Unfortunately, this does not mean that the 2020 election would be invalidated and that Trump would assume the presidency again. But, I just hope it'll be very interesting if they do find that out, because obviously the Fulton County ballots are a mess, and they're still doing their thing in Arizona. It's going to be very, 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 very interesting, just to see how the news handles it. Now, they're already downplaying this and saying, "Oh, this is ridiculous." There's no evidence. Remember Donald Trump was saying this. The election was fraudulent without evidence, without any basis, no basis for election fraud. Well, not so fast. That's all I say. Anyway. All right, we're going to move on after I thank Lord Stanhope, who's the first sponsor of the show today with the 10 spot through YouTube Super Chat. On the anniversary of my hatching, thought I'd share some love and a few beers. Well, sir, does that mean it's your birthday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Lord Stanhope. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, sir. Thank you for sponsoring the show. If you'd like to sponsor the show, YouTube Super Chats and or Streamlabs, the links are in the chat and below the chat there. You'll find it. Or you can just go to PDawgKnight.live right there, and you can also get a Resist Fascism mug there at PDawgKnight.live. All right, let's so I do have and speaking of voting. So, what do you mean, unfortunately? It's happy birthday, sir. I don't say unfortunately. Speaking of voting, apparently, Joe Manchin had put out an alternative voting bill to the Democrats' H.R. 1 and S1 in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell doesn't think either one would get any Republican votes. McConnell says no Republicans will sort Manchin's possible version of the voting rights bill as Democrats play a game of back and forth with regard to voting rights legislation. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell signaled that members of his own party are still not open to a federal government overhaul of the election system, even if it's packaged as a compromise. Well, here's the problem. I keep saying this. It's probably unconstitutional anyway, but we're going to listen. At a press conference on Thursday, McConnell said that Republicans would not back a version potentially proposed by Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. McConnell told members of the media, "You all have noticed that there's now a debate among Democrats over a revised version produced by one of the Democrats yesterday, which has also been endorsed by Stacey Abrams." He added, "I would make this observation about wait a minute. Let me do this in let's do it in Mitch McConnell. I would make this observation about the revised version. It still turns the Federal Election Commission from a judge into a prosecutor, and in what is an extraordinarily dubious constitutionality, would remove districting from state legislatures and hand it over to computers. Equally unacceptable. Totally inappropriate." McConnell noted, "All Republicans, I think, will oppose that, and as well if that were to be what surfaced on the floor," adding that it isn't what they anticipate will happen. Anyway, so he's saying they're not going to vote for that shit either, and, is what it is. All right, let's move on to some more heartwarming things. Yes, in New Jersey, Newark, the city in New Jersey, they're erecting a new statue to honor a great man in New Jersey history. I don't have enough jowls. Well, I'll try. That's a Galapagos accent? Well, I don't know. It's Mitch McConnell has that kind of talks from the back of his neck, and I don't know. Anyway, they're honoring a great man in New Jersey history in Newark. They erected a new statue, yes. And that is of none other than George Floyd.
Newark paying tribute to George Floyd with a new statue in front of City Hall.
Goodness
Mayor Ross
gracious.
Baraka, actor and filmmaker Leon Pickney, and artist Stanley Watts unveiled
Let's just look at this for a second. It's a nice looking statue of George Floyd. Got him sitting there on a bench in a wife beater. Oh, why New Jersey? Why? Anyway, let's listen to this report.
700-pound bronze statue this afternoon. Floyd's murder at the hands of Minneapolis police last year fueled a global movement for racial justice.
Now notice she slipped there. She slipped there. Did you hear that? She was going to say for social justice, and she changed to racial justice. Listen to that again.
For racial justice.
Hopefully when people walk by and they see it and they participate in it, and hopefully it inspires them to become active in the things, the struggles that are happening here.
What? Good morning, Renee Mayette. And also, good morning, you're a ridiculous lunatic. Participate in what? George Floyd's not from New Jersey. And, okay, I feel a rant coming on. And let me just finish this right now.
And right here in New Jersey.
And the statue will remain outside City Hall for at least 1 year. Today's ceremony also honored Juneteenth.
Okay, so, and I don't know if I want to make a video about this or not. So, I understand that George Floyd died at the hands of a police officer and caused an upheaval in our country that in some ways are understandable, as far as, although again, the thing about the George Floyd dying at the hands of police, George Floyd didn't die because he was a black man. He died as a part of a police interaction for something he'd done that was a crime, and he shouldn't have died the way he did. Although calling it a murder is a stretch for me, because as I watched the trial and listened to the testimony, there's enough reasonable doubt that the two charges that included the word murder, but is pretty unique to how Minnesota treats them, I don't think they were beyond a reasonable doubt. I do believe that there was a negligence that Derek Chauvin, had. That the third charge, absolutely, a homicide that from their negligence and not attempting to revive him and not being, I always use the word situational awareness, because with 4 officers on the scene, there should have been some officer with enough situational awareness to realize that Floyd was slipping out and that they should have at least made some attempts to revive him, whatever. And maybe, just maybe, that would have been, would have saved them from this. But Derek Chauvin, the lead officer on this scene, I believe that he's liable for that, not necessarily the 2 murder charges. But that's beside the point. The point I really want to make is that George Floyd is not a hero. And for whatever reason, certain elements want to make him a hero. George Floyd, I don't, look, if you're going to put a statue in front of a city that has nothing to do with what happened to George Floyd. I mean, it's what, 1,500 miles away from where I live. You would want that to be a statue of someone who is a great person. George Floyd was not that. George Floyd died in a manner that's not acceptable, but he's no great man to build a statue in front of your city hall in a town that has nothing to do with George Floyd. I would be upset if they put a statue of George Floyd in my town, where I live, where he met his maker. Okay, they already have a big shrine at that area. Okay, now they've been trying to clean that up, and then there's other things, but a martyr has to know what they're dying for. Well, yeah, and that's not what he was dying for. He was dying because he refused to go into a police car and asked to be laid on the ground, and they restrained him in a way that they weren't able to pay attention to what was happening to the man. And if he whether he died from the drugs in the system or whether he died from the pressure being put on his body, the officers, it doesn't make him a hero. He was, in fact, not only did he not die for any cause, the cause came to him. He did not come to the cause. He died because he was committing a criminal act and then refused to go with the officers into the vehicle. The same officer who they've convicted of murder is the officer who offered to turn the air conditioning on the car so he would be more comfortable. So but his exploits prior to that, which have nothing to do with his death, but there's in no way in hell. So my kids are already grown, but let's say I have some grandkids, and for whatever reason, I take my grandkids to Newark, New Jersey. And I go to the city hall, and let's say this statue is still here, and they say, "Grandpa," which they're not, this is going to be in 10 years because I don't have any grandkids yet. But they say, "Grandpa, who is that?" Well, that's George Floyd. Oh, what did he do? Well, let's see. Tried to pass a counterfeit bill, and he was high on methanol and fentanyl, and he died because the police officers weren't paying attention to what they were doing. Well, why is there a statue of him? I have no idea. Did he happen here? No, it didn't happen here. It happened back home. So anyway, I am just dumbfounded by the fact that they put this statue of George Floyd up in Newark, New Jersey. Somebody make this make sense. So I go onto Twitter, and there's a whole bunch. I just looked up George Floyd statue, and excuse me. Now here, Uncle Hotep certainly has a good take on it. The George Floyd statue is just the beginning. This is from Hotep's Been Told You last night.
What is this? Why? But
now you heard what Biden said. He talked to his family. One of Floyd's daughters said, my daddy changed the world.
No, your daddy.
Like, yes, your son.
Oh,
your dad, he indeed changed the world. What Pelosi say? Thank you for your sacrifice, George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
He sacrificed his life to change the world.
No, he sacrificed his life because he couldn't breathe and didn't want to go in the car. Anyway, but no, I listen to this.
We're not done with these statues, bro. We're not done with these statues. I know we're going to talk about Juneteenth, but when we get to George Floyd holiday, remember this day, June 17th, 2021, Episode 155, Hotep's been told you. Remember, the man with the tinfoil kufi told y'all this was coming, this day was coming. Remember, Hotep's been told you. The patron saint of George Floyd has not stopped. This thing has just begun to roll.
We're gonna have George Floyd statues.
I don't know what's coming next, but we're going to see more statues. We're going to see that's right, movies, documentaries. Man, they might get what's that brother's name? Michael B. Jordan to play George Floyd.
Oh.
or Denzel's son. There's going to be a Hollywood blockbuster about this, and he's going to get an Oscar for it. Remember, I told y'all first. Some shine from Exeter, Pennsylvania with a tinfoil kufi on.
And then later Hotep Jesus said, no, they're going to get Idris Elba to play George Floyd. Chauncey Stewart, how you doing? And you're correct. People need to look up the definition of sacrifice. They're not saying that's what Nancy Pelosi said. Thank you, Selected Boy, for the 10 spot through Super Chat. It says, I wonder if the statue of the 14-year-old boy that was killed in Chaz would be built in New Jersey. Yeah, I doubt it. Yeah, me too. I doubt it. I mean, come on now. George Floyd didn't make any sacrifice. The sacrifice is when you actually, he didn't sacrifice for a cause. He sacrificed for a fake 20 and some fentanyl. But, they're making him a symbol. I don't know why they built the statue. So the people of defund the police, abolish ICE, stop racial inequality. The feds, best I can do is a new holiday and a 700-pound statue of George Floyd. So some people are ripping on them for another reason. Malcolm X, the white man, will try to satisfy us with symbolic victories rather than economic equity or justice. No. Malcolm X never used the word equity. That's a made-up quote right there. He might have said equality. Boy. Let's see, anyone else on here? Someone, this is terrible. Someone modified this statue a little bit. That's not cool. That's bad. That's bad. Thank you, Pincalo, driving 8 man with the Canadian 2 spot, saying the kid that filmed it is getting a Pulitzer. I see. That's not, you got to be kidding me. That's a joke, right? Oh, you didn't see this. I didn't show you the fake statue. This is terrible. That's a modified statue of the George Floyd statue. Oh, that's not good. Thank you, Pincalo. Thank you so much. Hopefully it inspires those that walk by to be more active and take part in activism. Well, what kind of activism? Because George Floyd ain't it. George Floyd was never an activist. When the statue of George Floyd, I'm not going to say that one out loud. That's crazy. But moving on into racial justice and equity. Yesterday, Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law, marking America's newest national holiday. We're making Juneteenth a national holiday. Now, I've known about Juneteenth for a very, very long time, and so I understand, where this kind of came from. But anyway, President Joe Biden signed the now, and some people are up in arms about this. I'm not. Just FYI, Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act. I don't like the name, though. I wish they had said National Freedom Day and not so it's never confused with our Independence Day. But you know how some people like to put in a dig when they write a bill. Joe Biden, president, signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law Thursday, one day after the bill passed overwhelmingly in the House. Juneteenth marks a long, hard night. Okay, this is this is Joe Biden speaking. Juneteenth marks a long, hard night of slavery and subjugation and a promise of a brighter morning to come. This is a day of profound, in my view, profound weight, profound power, Biden said prior to signing the bill into law. The day which you remember the moral strain, the terrible toll that slavery took on the country and continues to take. No, it does not continue to take on our country. Sorry. What I've long called America's original sin. Yes, I don't recall you ever saying that before, Joe, before today. Juneteenth is already celebrated across America and honors the official end of slavery in Confederate states on June 19th, 1865, the day that the Emancipation Proclamation reached a remote area of Texas, while former President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Many slaves only learned that they were free after the Civil War ended. And that was when the Union soldiers got into this part of Texas, and reminded him, of course, it was after the war that it was over when it actually happened. Just months into his time in office, Biden said he knew signing the Juneteenth bill into law would become one of the greatest honors he will have as a president. This is the first federal holiday to be created in nearly 4 decades. The last federal holiday to be established, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, occurred under former President Ronald Reagan. It passed unanimously in the Senate, 415 to 14 in the House. The 14 votes all came from Republicans, and I don't care what Kamala Harris said. Now, one of the interesting takes, there's a couple interesting takes, but this one from Jennifer Connell over at Red State, and I think, now just a reminder too, this particular holiday was probably going to happen no matter who became president. Just a reminder here. So remember the, what did they call this? Not the Contract of America. They called it, shoot. He had a name for this. I can't remember. But remember they were talking about a plan. Platinum Plan. The Platinum Plan for Black America. Trump was going to pass this Platinum Plan, right? Well, in the Platinum Plan, right down here under prosperous black communities, Donald Trump was proposing making Juneteenth a national holiday. Way back when, right? So here's an interesting take, and this is from Jennifer Connell at Red State, or Jennifer Olivia O'Connell. More than 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, Union soldiers marched into Galveston, Texas to take control of the state and ensure that all black slaves understood they had been set free. If that isn't a cause for celebration, I don't know what is. So that is what we did with prayers, songs, dancing, and feasting. If you have ever been, now this is a black woman writing this too, and Juneteenth's been celebrated in Texas as a state holiday for since like the 80s. So that is what we did with prayers, songs, dancing, and feasting. If you have ever been to a black church on Easter or frankly any given Sunday, you have a picture of how it might have looked. June 19th or Juneteenth is a day marked to commemorate this final proclamation and cementing of freedom for blacks. It has been celebrated on large and small scales throughout Texas and other states for 156 years. I know they've been doing it here in Minnesota. Why the Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves? Exactly. On Thursday, President Biden signed the bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Now, she says, I love the Juneteenth story because it's part of the history of my people, but did I need a federal holiday to recognize this? Nah. While I do not mock or malign its passage, as some conservatives are doing, looking at you, Candace Owens, my ability to embrace the evocative power of celebrating wrongs made right and honoring my ancestors doesn't require federal acknowledgement or permission. Now, she was referring to Candace Owens, who tweeted out, Democrats really need to stop repackaging segregation. I'll be celebrating July 4th on July 4th only. I'm American. Well, understand, and I think that's in reference to it be calling the Juneteenth National Independence Day. But I don't think Candace really understood it, because I know a lot of places in the country, nobody celebrates this. I've been hearing about this holiday for years. And David Higgins responded to her, Juneteenth is now officially a federal holiday to celebrate what Republicans did 160 years ago. Notice how there's still no federal holiday to commemorate any accomplishments of the Democrats. That's a little shade, right? Anyway, she continues, frankly, I'd see Biden citing the holiday in the law at this particular time for what it is. Another Democrat bright, shiny object to dangle in front of blacks and say, see, we care. Look at what we did for you. Then they'll dine out on it for 50 years without doing anything to change the trajectory of inner city education with school choice, address inner city violence by funding and equipping neighborhood police presence, or allow blacks to arm themselves and partner with law enforcement to protect their own neighborhoods. Maj Touré expressed similar points. While his list doesn't necessarily match mine, it is a reflection on the fact that Democrats are big on symbolism to the black community, but not so great on actual change that will positively affect the black community. So Maj says, Juneteenth is cool. However, we were doing that already as a community. Talk to me about legalizing cannabis and letting millions of black men incarcerated for nonviolent weed convictions out, though. Ting. Never forget, it was President Donald Trump who started the conversation last year and pledged to make Juneteenth a national holiday. The left went bonkers, accusing him of pandering now that Jim Crow Joe is installed and basically took Trump's idea. They're treating it like some great civil rights feat. Spare me. I do not begrudge my fellow black brothers and sisters who are lauding, celebrating, and embracing this milestone. Take the wins where you can get them. My hope is that the holiday will be used to expand education, not only about Juneteenth, but the varying shades of the black experience that is part of the American experience. It can all be crammed into February, and it should never have been expected. It can't all be crammed into February, and it should never have been expected to. Perhaps this will be the turning point of expanding on that Black History Month focus in order to enlarge the understanding that our lives, our accomplishments, and our multitudinous contributions are tightly weaved throughout the fabric of American history. So for those conservatives and Republicans whining about Juneteenth replacing Independence Day, you need to get some perspective. It was a Republican Party that was formed with the cause of ending slavery, and it was a Republican president who helped make it happen. How about forging that connection rather than condemning the powerful historical moment that is the fulfillment of what Thomas Jefferson wrote in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Juneteenth was the beginning of that fulfillment for blacks. As my colleague Kira Davis wrote, what a missed opportunity. When cranky liberals try to pin racism on the right, anti-Republicans worth their salt will fire back with, quote, the GOP is the party of Lincoln, the party of abolition, end quote. Truth. So why pass up on this amazing marketing opportunity? Rather than being angry about this because some deem it a political holiday, conservatives should be taking every opportunity to remind Americans just who brought them this glorious day. You want to know how to maintain the momentum of the black vote that Trump began? This is a great place to start. Trump is gone, but the Republican Party is still a political force. The task should not end with Trump. Why would we want that? My colleague Jeff Charles took to task the Republicans who voted against the passage of the Juneteenth bill and had some pretty dumb takes on why they chose to do so. Jeff rebuts them with finesse and elegantly points out Juneteenth symbolizes an event that moved America closer towards living up to the values upon which she was founded. It was a moment when the nation began representing its repenting of its original sin. To put it simply, this was a wonderful moment in our history. What good reason is there not to memorialize it? So, let's see. And she gives some other examples of other people who've responded. But, so anyway, Asian History Month is Asian History Month is in May. If you didn't already know that, Asian and Jewish Heritage Month are in May. There are other states that have months, Chauncey, and well, as some people would say, White History Month is every day. So, no, there is a Hispanic Heritage Month. There are other months, and Black people got the short one. And I'm not a fan of Black History Month. I think that American history should be all inclusive, and everyone's story should be told. If you contributed to this country, your story should be told. Giving someone just giving a month kind of diminishes the fact that there's a whole lot of history that everyone in this country has contributed to. So, but I absolutely get your point there, Chauncey. All right, Netherlander History Month. Okay, but Biden also used the Juneteenth push to push his federal takeover of elections and the suburbs. On Thursday, President Biden signed the law proclaiming June 19th, a federal holiday commemorating the freeing of the very last slaves in the United States in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865. Yet the president used Juneteenth as an excuse to push his radical agenda, including his federal takeover of elections and housing. He demonized Republican voter integrity laws and hailed a federal program that will pull zoning decisions away from city councils. Local control, Joe. Local control. Anyway, the truth is, this is Joe, the truth is, it's simply not enough just to commemorate Juneteenth. After all, emancipation of enslaved Black Americans didn't mark the end of America's work to deliver on the promise of equality, Biden said. To honor the true meaning of Juneteenth, we'll have to continue toward that promise. We haven't gotten there yet. Where's my pudding? Sorry, I added that last part. The president said his administration is committed to doing just that. That's why we've launched an aggressive effort to combat racial discrimination in housing. Oh, Joe. You know what? Again, I worked in the housing sector. I was a mortgage banker for many years. And what he's referring to, maybe, I don't know, maybe in some places it's there, but it's not what he thinks it is. Okay. We should have more financial training for people in younger ages. And that would do a lot, because so anyway, let me just finish this. Combating racial discrimination in housing is a noble goal, but Biden was referring to a revamped version of the Obama administration's affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, a rule that started removing zoning from the purview of state and local governments. Not a good idea. The Trump administration eliminated the rule, but the Department of Housing and Urban Development under Biden has already proposed two rules. Part of Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan explicitly pushes for apartment buildings in neighborhoods that are currently restricted to single-family homes. During the 2020 campaign, Biden promised to go much further than AFFH. He embraced Senator Cory Booker's strategy for ending single-family zoning in the suburbs and creating little downtowns there. Biden justifies his assault on local zoning control by claiming the current zoning laws that favor single-family homes disproportionately hurt low-income people who can't afford to move to the suburbs. Yet this policy would take away Americans' abilities to shape their own neighborhoods. Hello, Paul Farrell. How you doing? Biden's pledge to increase Black home ownership may be noble, but Donald Trump was right to warn that Biden policies represents a threat to the suburbs. In terms of pushing racial equity, whenever you heard the word equity, run away. On Juneteenth, the president also touted his administration's goal to give Black entrepreneurs more access to capital, a noble goal, but a policy that singles out people based on the color of their skin, and his desire to give each and every child 3 and 4 years of age not daycare, but school. Yet without vital measures to improve schools like school choice, decreasing the age of first entry may not make much of a positive difference. It wouldn't, and unless you have, because right now, are they just trying to indoctrinate kids earlier, or what are they trying to do with that? I don't get it. It's like, we did, let's see, I'm trying to think of what we did with our kids. We had our kids in Montessori school. But that was our choice. And also we, I think the biggest thing that we did for our kids that made them ready for school more than anything is we read to them every day. Every day before we went to bed, we always read a book every day from the time before they could talk. We would read a book to them every day. And that's just a simple thing that you can do for your kids that helps them gain language skills. And language skills, early language skills, are also going to create early success for any young child. Both of our kids, because we read every day, all the way. And I'm talking like we did this as a ritual probably well into elementary school. Like we're talking into like up to about 5th grade. We just sit and read a book. And by the time they were 5, they were reading the books to us, but we read every day. And then they made that their habit, on their own. They both were reading all the time. And that cognitive skill of being able to talk, both of our kids spoke like adults when they were 4 years old. They spoke in complete sentences. There was no baby talk. Yep. Special K acid, no baby talk. There's also, and they spoke in complete sentences. I remember when my daughter, I remember she was getting one of her vaccinations. I think she was like 2 years old and she was already talking. And my wife, who is an RN and knows a little bit about child development, was telling the doctor, it seems a little strange since our daughter, speaks in complete sentences and this and that. And of course the doctor is like, well, every parent thinks their kids are brilliant, right? And so she was getting her vaccination. I can't remember which one it was. And at 2 years old, and they give her the shot, and she looks up at my wife and she goes, "Mommy, I need Tylenol," because she knew what baby Tylenol was from she was teething. And the doctor looked at her. "Did you just say I need Tylenol?" She goes, that's what I'm telling you. And part of it is just because we read all the time. And we always talked. We've never talked to baby talk. So, it's like, I don't know what Biden's school for 3 and 4 year olds are going to do if the parents aren't already, starting them right. And so, I don't know. It just turns into a daycare center. And I think, they always talk about the school to prison pipeline, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says. And it's like, it's not the school to prison pipeline. It's that person's vagina to the prison pipeline, because they didn't do anything for their kids when they were growing up. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Anyway, there's my tangent for the day. Anyway, Biden uses Juneteenth to push some bullshit, and no surprise there. All right, let's skip ahead because I need to make sure I get done today. Now, just some odds and ends that we'll get to. Ex-Obama doctor torches Biden in a brutal letter, demands Biden submit to a cognitive test immediately. Yes. Let's Representative Ronnie Jackson, Republican from Texas, the former White House physician for former President Barack Obama and Donald Trump, sent a letter to Democratic President Joe Biden on Thursday demanding that Biden immediately submit to a cognitive test because his mental decline and forgetfulness have become more apparent over the past 18 months.
Your life makes me sad.
The letter, which was signed by more than a dozen other lawmakers, including by another physician and a dentist, told Biden that he should follow the precedent set by former President Donald Trump to document and demonstrate sound mental abilities. The American people should have absolute confidence in their president. The letter states they deserve to know that he or she can perform the duties of the head of state and commander-in-chief. They deserve full transparency on the mental capabilities of their highest elected leader. Well, that's an oxymoron right now. Anyway, to achieve this, we urge you to submit to a cognitive test immediately. We implore you to then publish the test results so the American people know the full mental and intellectual health of their president and to set an example for all presidents to follow going forward. The letter then documented numerous instances of Biden appearing to have had struggles. Is this one of them? Let's see what this is. Oh, it's a Daily Wire. Can't do it. I always should learn. I should know better than to play a Daily Wire embedded video. Anyway, they list numerous issues that he's had, and there's a copy of the letter if you want to read it. I just found that pretty humorous. All right, let's move on. Hi, Thomas Cleaver. You're not first, but you're here. Nice to see you. And also, MC's in the house.
Hammer time.
And who else showed up? Fight for Your Rights. Nice to see you. And Maddie's in the house. Renee Mayette and T-Ball. Did I mention my favorite Canadian, Jaeger Pony? Is it here too? Okay, I think I did. That was a while ago. Anyway, nice to see you all here. Let's see. How am I doing here? I want to check something. By the way, if you like what we're doing, here's a good time to hit the like button. If you haven't done it already, 44 in the house, 26 likes. Let's make that at least 45 likes, because some of the people who hit like already have already left. So hit the like button. In fact, here's what we're going to do. 1, 2, 3. Everyone hit the like button right now. And if you hit it now, I will see it in about 15 seconds or so. So there you go. Good morning. Also, Francis Barrett. Nice to see you. Okay. Where were we? Did we do? Oh, no, we didn't do this one yet. So yesterday I was talking a little about how people are starting to push back. Starting to push back on the critical race theory stuff, right? I forgot to tell you this too. So, Lady Boomer started a new job, and she had to take. They have, she's going through orientation. That's the same with the same company, but with a different division of where she works, and so she has to do this orientation, right? And part of their orientation had this. They're talking about what do you call it? They're talking about race issues and talking about, well, I wouldn't say critical race theory, but the test that came out of it, understanding your privilege. And so she had to take this questionnaire. So she brought it home. And we kind of went through it together, and it was asking all these questions like, did you grow up with a father in the home? Did you grow up with this and that? Is there times you didn't have to worry about food and nada. And we figured out that my lovely Lady Boomer, white woman who grew up with a single mother, and I had far more privilege points than my wife did. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I might have to bring that to you, but I don't want to get her in trouble too, because I don't want her worse to know. Also, good morning, Alone. How you doing? Kidding. Don't sing. Might get copyrighted. And also, Nunya Beeswax. What's happening? All right. Let's see. Now, did my little thing with the... Oh, well, there we go. We got to 36 likes, so that's good. Hit the like button if you like what we do. All right, let's get back to this, though. What was I doing? The media's kind of panicking about because people are starting to really push back on the critical race theory thing. And, they're treating it as though that they don't want any diversity training. They don't want to talk about race. No. They don't want to talk about critical race theory. That critical race theory is not diversity training. Okay. And diversity training is just saying, hey, you might run into this situation with Somali people that they have this particular tradition and this and that and whatever. But no. Critical race theory is not that. Anyway, so panic media escalates its disinformation war against critical race theory opponents. The opposition to teaching critical race theory in public schools and college campuses is growing. As a result, its proponents, including the mainstream media, are in a full-blown panic mode and respond accordingly. As further evidence, Astide W. Herndon, a national politics reporter for the New York Times woke newsrooms, took to the Twitter machine Wednesday to complain. He said it was kind of amazing that Juneteenth is going to be a federal holiday for reasons teachers for reasons teacher won't be allowed to explain to their students out of fear critical race theory backlash. No. Anyway, here's what he says. It's kind of amazing. Juneteenth is going to be a federal holiday for reasons teachers won't be allowed to explain to their students out of fear critical race theory backlash. Why do we have this day off? No, that's teaching history. Juneteenth is history. That's not critical race theory. This, of course, is not true, as others pointed out. If nobody knew about slavery before critical race theory, how did Juneteenth start in the first place? Aha! Also, this is a type of tweet that gets shared a lot, and many will use similar logic to support their stance, but there's nothing banning the teachings of emancipation. In fact, the Texas law mandates the history of slavery, white supremacy be taught. Right? Please don't fall for this. Florida law requires students to be taught about the enslavement experience, abolition, and the contributions of African Americans to society, but not critical race theory. Stopping the teaching, and this guy says, stopping the teaching of critical race theory does not prevent teachers from talking about slavery, Jim Crow, or Juneteenth. That's just a flat-out lie from a very dishonest person. On Tuesday, Meet the Press, host Chuck Todd and his colleague Ben Collins smashed hard on the panic button in yet another report from the network on how conservatives had supposedly been whipped up into a manufactured outrage by right-wing propagandists into making life harder for school teachers by allegedly opposing the correct teaching of U.S. history. Here's some examples. Well, should we just watch this clip, or how long is this?
Look, you've been at this
Here
nexus of sort of online propaganda and how online propaganda is used to sort of create issues out of thin air. And frankly, buddy, this feels like an issue that was created out of thin air by a couple of producers at right-wing media outlets, and all of a sudden now school boards all over the country are dealing with something that they didn't know was an issue.
Yeah, Steve Bannon recently said the path
Steve Bannon,
to save the nation is through the school boards. They realize these are, you don't have to win a lot of votes at the school board level, and also you don't have to win. You need engaged voters. You need people who are really focused, like laser focused, on one specific idea. And the good thing is with critical race theory, it can mean pretty much whatever you want it to mean. So if you get people really riled up through conservative media,
it's funny he says that, because it seems like for Ben Collins, critical race theory can be pretty much whatever you want it to mean, or at least that's the way they describe it. Oh, they describe it as diversity training. No, it's not diversity training. It has a very specific agenda that has nothing to do with history or diversity training.
You can just win those seats back. That didn't win in that situation in Maine, but it does win all throughout the country. It's really having this impact where it's being saturated nationally, and it's having this downstream.
All right, I'm gonna skip him because he's boring me to death. Now, wait, hang on a second. There is a part there is another part that I want you to hear.
Well, Ben, I was talking to some school teachers who happen to be in Florida, who work in the state of Florida, and they're a bit confused by the law. So does this mean can they not teach American history correctly? I mean, that's sort of.
And that right there is the bullshit that he just said. He's defining it by something that it's not. It can mean whatever you want it to mean, and that's what Chuck Todd just did.
The question, and there's a real.
And no, of course they can teach American history. Of course they can. In fact, it's required in the Florida law. They teach about slavery, emancipation, about everything about it. And living on. God, this is crazy. Hello, T. Hello, Moonbase Radio. How you doing?
Fear among civics teachers that somehow they're going to be on the front lines, and the Tucker Carlsons of the world are going to character assassinate them.
Yeah, that's the worry. Is when I talked to the superintendent, he said the biggest worry for me is the kids. They don't want to be in the background of a viral YouTube video where a guy is screaming at a school board meeting or graduation about critical race theory. But that's the biggest worry is the children, the post people. But the biggest worry for the state legislatures right now and for for school boards is not that. It has something to do largely with national politics.
Well, maybe if they were talking specifically about critical race theory and not just some vague thing, maybe you would understand why they oppose it. But you're talking about some vague shit that has nothing to do with critical race theory. Just like you just said, it can mean it can make anything to some people. Thank you, Mr. Alone, with the 749, who says, it's payday for me. Have some chunk change and keep doing your thing. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Mr. Alone,
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Sponsor of the Day.
thank you so much for the donation through Streamlabs. Thank you for sponsoring the show. I greatly appreciate it. So, as Professor Jacobson wrote in his write-up Tuesday, the media used very similar tactics against the Tea Party when it rose to prominence several years ago during the Obama-Biden administration. Paint your opposition as bought and paid for, ignorant, racist hicks who want to stand in the way of progress and moving forward, blah, blah, blah. The one who's in the house, nice to see you. In this case, however, the media has specific villains to point to as the source for all the disruption to the CRT agenda: Tucker Carlson and former President Donald Trump. The media's allies in big tech did their bidding by taking Trump off of Facebook and Twitter, not totally silencing him, but nevertheless making it harder for him to get the word out. And now, if they could just do something about canceling that guy Carlson, then opposition to CRT will magically evaporate. No, it won't. H.P. Lovecraft, what's happening? Except it won't. Carlson, Trump, and other prominent Republicans and conservatives have been megaphones for the message already out there that about CRT. As it turns out, there's a rather significant grassroots opposition to brainwashing children into believing that their country is inherently racist. Systemic racism is everywhere. All black people are victims, and that some of their classmates have much to atone for simply for being born white. It's legitimate, well-informed opposition movement composed of parents, students, educators, and one strong enough to have seen some successes at the local level against CRT. Because of that, they must be tarred and feathered as racist because the media and Democrats have no actual persuasive argument they can use to counter them. So anyway, let's see. I skipped. Oh, I thought I had another one about that. There was a guy. There's a couple great videos out there of people talking to school boards, talking in meetings about F this noise, in other words. So, and good for them. Now, the bad news in the economy front, inflation hits highest level since 1979 in Philly Fed survey. That's not a good thing. It's the economy, stupid. Supercharged inflationary pressures continue to gain steam in June. The Philadelphia Fed's manufacturing survey showed Thursday 82% of the manufacturing companies in the Philly Fed survey reported paying higher prices for the inputs of their products, while just 1% said cost of input had fallen. As a result, the diffusion index moved up by 4 points to 80.7, the highest reading since June 1979. Many of those companies are succeeding in passing on at least some of their higher costs to customers. Over 51% of the firms reported increases in prices received this month, up from 43% last month, while only 2% reported decreases the same time as last month. The current prices received index rose for the fourth consecutive month, moving up 9 points to 49.7%, its highest reading since October 1980. So, you know, those some of those memes comparing Joe Biden to Jimmy Carter. Okay. Correct. Anyway, except Biden's worse. Also, a new report's out that shows how lockdowns destroyed the middle class. Oh, did they now? Did lockdowns destroy the middle class? In the immortal words of Watson's Black House guest. No shit, Sherlock. Anyway, A new report out Thursday reveals that stupid 19 lockdowns had a far worse effect on working class Americans than high wage Americans. Data from the Harvard University, Brown University, and Gates Foundation show dramatically different job market recovery for high wage, middle wage, and low wage workers. Between January 2020 and March 2021, Americans earning above $60,000 observed a 2.4% overall increase in employment. Meanwhile, workers earning below $60,000 and workers earning below $27,000 saw a 4.5% and 23.6% decreases respectively, while Americans in the professional business services sector saw a 0.5% decrease in employment. The retail, transportation, education and health services, and leisure and hospitality witnessed dips of 3.5%, 6.4%, and 20.7% in decreases. And there's a whole article on it, but it's just another one of those things that we know is happening. And pray for your country. That's all I got to say. Moving on, in the New York Post today, excuse me, so let's close that because their ads pop up every time I open the window again. It's close. Come on, there we go. New York is having a problem with the exodus, as in they're leaving. The rich are leaving New York to Florida, and it's threatening a disaster for New York City. Even post-COVID, the exodus of wealthy New Yorkers will continue until the plague of a city mismanagement also ends. Goldman Sachs is relocating 100 plus key employees from the city to Palm Beach, Florida to save money and grow its operation strategy beyond Wall Street. That includes partners who earn $1 million a year before typically, or a year for typically far larger bonuses. Before their larger bonuses. So while Wall Street execs who are pushing their people to return to the office make a lot of headlines, other CEOs are looking to move the entire office or part of it after the last 15 months proved how practical it is. Notably, Bloomberg found that only 9,000 of the 19,000 New Yorkers who moved to Florida to ride out COVID say they will definitely plan to return. The wealthy have been fleeing the city all pandemic long to lower tax, lower cost of living, and lower crime alternatives. That means big trouble ahead for those left behind, as the top 2% earners supply 51% of New York's income tax take. And in middle class flight and all the young upstaters leaving for lack of job opportunities, add in middle class flight and all the young upstarters leaving for lack of job opportunities, and you see why New York is one of just 7 states to lose a House seat in the 2020 census. So, my response to this New York City and the state of New York losing people. Oh, well, look at your leadership. The Supreme Court has rejected an Obamacare challenge over standing issues. It was a 7-2 decision. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected a challenge to Obamacare on Thursday in California versus Texas on technical grounds, holding 7-2 that the plaintiffs, some 17 Republican-led states, lacked the standing to bring a suit against the law. Another one of these standing rejections. The states wanted the court to overturn Obamacare, arguing that since the individual mandate penalty for not buying health insurance, which the court controversially refined as a tax in 2012, had been set to zero by President Donald Trump's tax reforms, the entire law was unconstitutional. Moreover, since the individual mandate was integral to the functioning of Obamacare, it could not be severed from the law, and therefore the whole law had to be disregarded. In a majority opinion written by Justice Stephen Breyer, the court held, quote, "The Constitution gives federal courts the power to adjudicate only genuine cases and controversies. Article 3, Section 2, to have standing, a plaintiff must allege personal injury fairly traceable to the defendant's allegedly unlawful conduct and likely to be redressed by the requested relief." Daimler Chrysler versus Kuno. No plaintiff has shown such an injury fairly traceable to the allegedly unlawful conduct challenge here. Though the individual mandate is no longer enforceable, the court held unenforceable statutory language alone is not sufficient to establish standing. Now, in dissent, Justices Samuel Alito and Neil Gorsuch protested against the court's apparent bias. Today's decision is the third installment in our epic Affordable Care Act trilogy, and it follows the same pattern as installments 1 and 2, all 3 episodes with the Affordable Care Act facing a serious threat, the court has pulled off an improbable rescue. And it was a little more scathing than that. Alito issued a dissenting opinion in the court's ruling today that was struck down by a 7-2 to vote the suit that 18 states have brought against the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Alito noted that in the first Obamacare case before the Supreme Court, National Federal Independent Business versus Sebelius, the government argued that Congress's constitutional power to regulate interstate commerce was what justified the mandate requiring individuals to buy health insurance. The government principal defense of the mandate was that it represented a lawful exercise of Congress's power to regulate interstate commerce. But the court rejected that unprecedented argument. Alito observed in his opinion in the latest case that might have foretold doom. Alito continued, but then in a stunning turn of events, the threat to the ACA was diffused when the penalty for failing to comply with the mandate was found to be a tax and thus to be justified as an exercise of the Congress's taxing power. By a vote of 5-4, the individual mandate and with it the rest of the ACA lived on, Alito noted. The next installment, King versus Burwell, the court carried out an equally impressive rescue. Excuse me. One of the Act's key provisions provided subsidies to persons purchasing insurance through exchanges established by a state. When many states refused to establish such exchanges, the federal government did so instead. But the critical subsidies were seemingly unavailable on those exchanges which had not been established by a state in any conventional sense of the term. Once again, some feared that the act was in mortal danger, but excuse me, the court came to the rescue again by finding that the federal government is a state. Oh my gosh. Now in the trilogy's third episode, Alito continued, the court presented with the daunting problem of a tax that does not tax. Can the taxing power, which saved the day in the first episode, sustain such a curious creature? In 2017, the Congress reduced the tax imposed on Americans who failed to abide by the individual mandate to 0. With that move, the slender reed that supported the decision in NFIB was seemingly cut down, but once again, the court has found a way to protect the ACA. Instead of defending the constitutionality of the individual mandate, the court simply ducks the issue and holds that none of the Act's challengers, including 18 states that think the Act saddles them with a huge financial cost, is entitled to sue. Can this be correct? The ACA imposes many burdens and obligations on states in their capacity as employers, and the 18 states in question have more than 1 million employers. Each $1 harm is enough to support standing, yet no state has standing? No one can fail to be impressed with the lengths to which this court has been willing to go to defend the ACA against all threats, he wrote. A penalty is a tax. The United States is a state, and 18 states who bear costly burdens under the ACA cannot even get in the front door to raise the constitutional challenge. So a tax that is not a tax is allowed to stand to support one of the biggest government programs in our nation's history. Fans of judicial inventiveness will applaud once again. Mic drop. Is that some shade or what? All right. Moving on. Oh, here's the guy that I wanted to show you. This guy, this is the guy who had the rant on CRT. And this is, maybe we'll, let's just end with this. The other two, what else do I have here? There'll be a couple articles. One about, these, you can read these. One's about enough with the white boy domestic terror threat fiction that Merrick Garland seems to be really invested in. Also an article on a suspect in a multi-state shooting that targeted white men. And let's see. Okay, there's two. We'll do two videos. And then the last one here. CNN's basically taint cleaning of Joe Biden on his first foreign trip, which was a total embarrassment. But the people at CNN have found a way to make it look like a triumph for Joseph Rahim Biden. Anyway, but I want to see this video of this guy. Listen to this guy. He's talking about CRT at this meeting. Is this Daily Wire? No, it's Daily Caller.
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to That's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time up, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You going to tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? This the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. If y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense, that's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sickening about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to the moral of the story. It all comes down to it. The person that's going to be suffering from this, the one's going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we're talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
All right. Love that guy. And I see a lot of you say to preach and all that stuff. Yeah. You know, I don't want to teach kids that, oh, you're never going to make it. You're going to be held down. It's someone else's fault that you didn't get where you want to be. That's just false. And now, finally, a little comic relief to end the show. Apparently, this Democratic congressman was having a Zoom meeting with some other Democrats. And he seemed to forget something here. And I'll see if you notice. But maybe this is telling me that perhaps Democrats should not maybe they shouldn't have Zoom meetings. Maybe they should have some real meetings where people actually got to come in and do something. This is a Zoom meeting, and you just got to watch and see what happens here.
Authorizing capabilities CISA has built through a pilot called Cyber Sentry, which allows CISA to partner with certain strategically placed critical infrastructure to monitor and detect threats in real time, specific threats to industrial control systems and operational technology. Would you agree that for CISA to be effective, it needs authorizing capabilities?
Hey, one more time. This is a congressman. And apparently he was doing the Zoom meeting from bed.
Which allows CISA to partner with certain strategically placed critical infrastructure to monitor and detect threats.
Oh, Congressman, what is this congressman's name? His name is channeling his inner Brian Stelter, CNN host, who showed viewers he probably goes pantless while on national television. A Democratic House member got caught with his boxers and a Captain America t-shirt on Zoom in a congressional meeting. The video began circulating on Twitter, shows New Jersey Representative Donald Payne questionably dressed for a House Committee on Homeland Security meeting to decide how much funding the department should receive in 2020. And Payne is seen in the video below waking up from a nap to which he got off his bed and his belly hung out, wearing light blue boxers and a darker Captain America t-shirt. Upon leaving the camera, other Congress critters can be seen in awe. A spokesman for the New Jersey Democrats office confirmed the video is legitimate and that he was in his underwear. Another reason Democrats should go off soon and get back to work. The struggle is real. If taxpayers are paying $174,000 a year, getting out of bed and putting on some clothes for work seems like it should be the minimum requirement. By the way, I just saw a new name pass by. William Stenshiever. Welcome to the show. How you doing? What is about Payne issued a statement to Fox News saying that as a public servant, my focus has always been the public good and my work to better the lives of my constituents and all Americans, regardless of the circumstances. After the public servant was found sleeping on the job, Payne's junior legislative director sounded off on supposed fat shaming. Oh, so that's what that's the worst thing. That's what you got from this. Hey, Congressman, Representative Payne Jr.'s legislative director here. It's no secret that as a diabetic, the congressman has his weight struggles, but we try to stick to policy here in Congress. Well, maybe you should stick to showing up for work in clothes too. Anyway, so that's it for today, people. Before you go, now let's see what am I looking at here? Oh, we're down to 37. We got up to 43 likes. Well, thank you very much, people. If you like what you saw and like what I do, I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. Hit the like button, hit the share button. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that several ways. That's all in the description down below. Also, as soon as the show's over here, I will update the description. All the links to all the articles and tweets and video and whatever will be in a single tab just below the immediate description. You'll see that at the end of the show. But as it is every day at this time, it's time for me to go because I got places to be. But I want to thank you again for being here. I got to go. My name is PDawgKnight. And I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thanks for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cashapp, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.